Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Everyday Trader. This is your host, Eric Hale with Trader Oasis, and I am joined by my friend and colleague, Greg Jensen. What is happening? Greg
Uh,
Jensen of Teton Sourdough Company.
That's a good introduction. Welcome, everyone. Good to be here. I do own a company called Teton Sourdough Company,
What's
but
the
that's
soup
not
of the day?
we're actually closed this week. It's spring break.
Oh, okay,
So no soup today.
because you're in a
But
college town.
if the soup of the day were something, it'd have to be something to calm nerves. At least if anyone was trading super microcomputer today.
Or
Uh,
Nvidia
or
or
Nvidia
Netflix.
or Broadcom. Yeah, the tech stocks, the AI stocks are really taking it on the chin today. But before we get into the market, I know we all just got back from Las Vegas. How was your trip?
It was excellent. I mean, huge packed house. Thank you, all of you, for coming. It was really wonderful to spend time with you. And my regret is that I didn't have more time to spend with people. See a lot of old friends that we haven't seen that we've known over the years, and some people that are newer that I haven't been able to meet face to face, and brand new friends. What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, no, fun events. Options Animal Summits are always worth the effort. I'm going to say the same thing you did. I wish I would have had more time. I was fighting using some muscle relaxants at the same time, legally using muscle relaxants. We were in Vegas, but I do have to say that I was dealing with a back issue and knocked myself out one day and actually missed the OA Weekly. So sorry about last week, guys. But
That's
I missed it.
okay. You hire competent people who were able to fill in and execute flawlessly. So the team picked up, and you were missed, but I think a good presentation was delivered nonetheless. What were any highlights on the content that we presented? You talked about the AI thing and trading AI.
I did. In fact, I hope I didn't start the bubble popping already.
Is that you were saying it was a bubble that's going to
Well,
pop?
I did say it's a bubble. I didn't think I don't necessarily know that we're done inflating the bubble, but uh, it's very similar. A lot of my presentation was surrounded around the comparison of the internet bubble, when the darling of the internet bubble being Cisco Systems, and comparing it to today's bubble with Nvidia being the darling of the AI bubble. And you can see with the reaction today, and again, I don't see any news specific to Nvidia today, but the entire semiconductor space is really taking it on the chin today. If you looked at all of them, Broadcom, AMD, Qualcomm, Micron, Texas Instruments, Intel, Nvidia, they are all down. Even the semiconductor manufacturers, the likes of, KLA-Tencor and Lam Research and Applied Materials, everybody is struggling today in the semi space. And obviously a lot of the other names that have been part of the AI bubble, and I'm talking about even some of the software, more related names like Amazon and Meta and Google, have also been really sold off today. Yet, if you look at the overall market, there's actually a lot of green. A lot of companies are doing just fine today. The healthcare sector is doing okay. The consumer defensive is doing okay. Energy is doing good. The financials are solid today. So I don't know that today's move, and maybe I'm jumping to the question I think you're going to ask, is this a trend change? I don't know yet. It may just be some asset shifting of a lot of the names that have had really big moves this year, and maybe playing some catch up in some of the names that haven't had as big of moves, because what I see in the economy still is pretty encouraging as far as growth goes.
Well, I wasn't going to go there yet because I was done talking about Vegas, but
Sorry, I jumped the gun.
you did. First of all, you and I did very well at the craps table.
Yeah, I could have. I wanted to play longer, but I'm glad I didn't, because I know I would have given back a lot of the money that I made. Oh, there you go. There you go.
I pulled it out of my wallet because I was heading someplace, actually going to the gym, and I'm like, I'm not going to leave $1,500 in my wallet. So I just shoved it here under my leather pad under my desk. And it's been sitting here for a few days. I'm like, I got to do something with this.
There you
But
go.
yes, we had a problem. Don't tell my wife. So that'll be I don't know, buy something, maybe some accessories for my guns or something with that, but maybe some more ammo. Can never have enough ammo.
Right.
But yeah, so other highlights, joking aside, we had our friend Lex there talking about trading 0-day options, which are, I don't know that anybody, hopefully people came across educated. It's a very tough strategy. And so he's going to have a follow-up with us next week. I don't know if you saw that invite,
I did. Yeah,
but
that'll be
next
exciting.
Tuesday for all of our advanced members and our standard members of Trader Oasis, we're going to have him just a follow up because a lot of people had questions and wanted to ask him some stuff there. So he's going to be back. Uh, let's see. I talked about my favorite trade, the Costanza trade, which is I dove a little bit deeper into it, talked about some variations and some adjustments, and I'm surprised at how many people over the years have told me that's become their favorite trade too. In fact, if you had been doing it this week, you'd be happy, right? You'd be making money with the way the market's been going. Um, I wanted to, yeah. So talking about that, I did anything else about the summit? We had
No,
we had a
some other
great.
great presentations. I think Charan gave a great presentation on in the money covered calls as well. Joe gave a great presentation on trading different size portfolios and setting expectations about returns and being realistic about what you can expect to make in the market. I know one of the common misconceptions of beginning option traders is the idea that I'm going to make 100% return every 2 weeks. And maybe it's because those advertisements get thrown in our face every day online and social media of telling us how easy options trading is and how you can become a millionaire in 60 days too. And so that was a great presentation on realistic expectations. And that's not to say you can't make 1,000% return on an option trade. You can, but you can also sit down at the roulette table and put all your money on 23 with one spin of the die or the marble. In that case, one spin of the wheel, and you can make a lot of money.
Well, my wife was nervous because we're doing some work with a contractor, and we had to we have like $10,000 in my checking account, which we don't normally do, but we moved that money around just so that we had it. We took it out of our long term savings, and I told her that uh, so I can transfer it when he gets here, and this is right before we go to Vegas, and the other one of our contractors wanted to be paid in cash. Let's not tell the IRS that. So I told her you have to go to the bank because the bank's closed. I can't do it. You got to go get $2,000 in cash. And she's never had $2,000 cash in her hand, so she was a little bit freaked out. And the bank's a half a mile from our house. So, anyways, so she was like, "Well, what are you going to do with that money in the checking account?" I said, "Well, I'm going to Vegas, honey. I'm going to double it. So I'm going to put it all on black." So we got 10 grand in the bank. I'll in the checking account. I'll just put it all on black and it'll be 20,000. And she started like, no, you're not serious. I'm like, what? You don't want to double our money? You don't trust me? She's like, honey, I don't think that's a good idea. No, honey, I'm not going to do that.
Well, again, that's what options trading is. It can be gambling if you want it to be. Now, of course, that's not what we want you to do. That's not what we teach you to do. And that's kind of was the basis of Joe's presentation in Las Vegas as well, of teaching people how to set expectations, how to manage risk with different size portfolios. And yeah, I thought that was a lot of great content. It was good. Like you said, good to see old friends, good to make a lot of new friends that we hadn't met before, and looking forward to the next one, maybe sometime in the latter part of this year.
Oh, I was going to tell you, I was just doing some math here on the side. There was a guy that told me that this is a prospective student, and he had $100,000, and he told me that he needed to make 10% a month on his 100,000. And I said, do you think that's reasonable? He said, oh yeah. Other people have told me I can make that much. That says, so just to put it in perspective, in 5 years, your 100,000 would be worth $4.6 million.
Yeah.
So, I like, does that sound reasonable? He's like, yeah, that's about what I expected. Like, all right, well, good luck.
Good
That's,
luck. Good luck with that.
yeah, 10% a month. Yeah, 100,000 gets. I mean, that should be your retirement plan. Somebody gets to retirement, just make 10% a month for the next 5 years, and then you have 4.6 million. Then you don't have to worry about it. Anyways, I closed a trade today on Amazon that did okay. It was a longer term trade. Risk was mitigated. It was deep in the money covered call. Well, didn't start that way. Started as a bear call that went against me. I bought the stock, made a couple adjustments, and made a decent little profit on it. So, I mean, I think I'm okay making. I think a lot of about what we do here is Billy Bean's sort of philosophy, and
Billy
he
Bean,
just
by
get
the
on.
way, if you don't know who Billy Bean is, Moneyball. He
Yeah,
was the manager of the Oakland A's. Fantastic book written. Pretty good movie made about it too, as well. Wasn't that Brad Pitt?
yeah. Brad Pitt did the movie. Of course, the book was better. And the movie was actually entertaining, but I don't think I tried to explain it to my wife because there's a lot more math in the book explaining
Yeah.
why. She liked the movie, and I guess then I started talking about math and border even more. But yeah, so the idea, Billy Bean said, get on base. I mean, how do you get runs? You got to get on base. So how do you get hit by pitch, walk? I don't care, whatever you do, just get on base. And you can't just swing for home runs. It's just getting on base is the most important thing. And his unique approach was, he just found players who got on base, and they didn't look like stars, like traditional stars, and they didn't have the charisma, but with a low base salary. So my philosophy is, don't lose money. So manage your risk and get base hits consistently. And, making 10%, 20% annualized returns is pretty reasonable to do. Um, not that hard if you're intentional about it. Anyways, that's what's going on in the market. So we were going to talk about the shift here. What do we identify? And we identified this actually in Summit last week. We talked about that we got a technical trend change, that the RSI, the 5 and the 20 moving averages, and the MACD all gave us an indication that the bullish trend we had been in is over. And this was over a week ago. Now, technicals don't tell you where the stock is going to go, but the question I have, and I've been thinking this through, Greg, and I'd really love to get your thoughts on it, is if there was a trend change, usually it's because of something sentimental or fundamental. And I know you spend a lot of time thinking about this too. Can you put a nail on what you think that was that changed, or did something change, or do you see it the same way? And what would that be?
Well, to be honest, I don't think it's changed that I can nail it on any one thing. Other than that, what I've been saying since the rally started in October is that the market was incorrect in its assumption that the Fed was going to cut rates. Yet the market still continued to rally, mostly on the basis of the idea that the Fed was going to be cutting rates. And that's why it allowed these massive buy programs to go through, albeit there was still a lot of money chasing those stocks up the ladder too. And maybe the market has finally said, okay, maybe the Fed isn't going to cut rates. In fact, you're starting to hear some Fed governors say what you said on Twitter a few days ago, that the next Fed move is going to be a rate increase.
Well, I don't think they said is. They said it could be.
Could be,
Yeah,
could be. Yeah,
the word
they said
hike
could
has
be.
worked its way in there.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we've talked about it even on this channel, that I'm in the camp that that's the next Fed move, is a rate hike. And the one thing that you and I know is Powell is very concerned about communicating, and he I think that's the first lesson that he learned, because every time he spoke, the market crashed, and he didn't like that. So he really has been intentional about communication, and not just him, but making sure that everybody on the same team is. And I think he's laid down the law. I don't think he has. I know he has. That, like, if you're going to go out there and talk and say something that's not part of what we've already agreed to, you need to let me know. And we can work it out. And it's not manipulation or collusion. It's let's this is, I remember that conversation we had with Waller. Actually, it was Bianco asked the question. We were all sitting at the rooftop down in Sarasota at another rooftop bar with this guy, and somebody asked a question about what about dissents? And he said, "Oh no, that would be absolutely ridiculous. Powell wouldn't put up with that, and Powell would be pissed if anybody did it because you should just you don't have to. If somebody would do it there because they're grandstanding or they're trying to deliver a political message, it would be some sort of a nefarious strategy." Because there's no reason for anybody to do that. We should talk about it and work about it in committee together, come in and talk. So that says to me that, and he, knowing that time that we were remembering Jackson Hole and Waller talking 7 times about that, the speech that he had, talking 7 times he spoke to Chair Powell, who kept running out and leaving, and text messages and conference calls to make sure the speech was right. What that says to me is Powell is working very hard to make sure the narrative is clear. And so the fact that we're starting to shift this super tanker narrative from 4 to 6 cuts to 1 to 4 cuts to maybe no cuts, will longer for higher to maybe there's a possibility of a hike. I don't think any of that is an accident. I don't think it's it may be somebody's particular opinion, but I'm telling you that Powell knows and all the rest of the crew, the entire Federal Reserve is all nodding their heads saying it's a possibility.
So the interesting part about that, because I 100% agree with you, Eric. I'm exactly on the same page. The interesting part about that is if in October, November, December of last year, you would have said, okay, the market's making a mistake right here. The Fed's going to raise rates. I can see that inflation's not dead. I can see that they're manipulating the numbers with oil prices lower, blah, blah, blah. Whatever your reason to say, I don't believe it. And you would have said, I'm going to short the market.
Right.
Because the Fed's going to not cut rates like it thinks it is. Yeah. Not only do you miss a huge bullish move over the last 6 months, if you're shorting the market, you set yourself up for an enormous amount of pain, profitability wise. And I think it's important that,
are you inferring that? So yeah, you're right. If somebody went short back in November, December last year, they would be in a lot of pain. But the work that I did, I actually did this with ChatGPT, and I don't know if I did it here. I thought I shared it here. I know we did some ChatGPT stuff last year, but I did it specifically looking at Fed policy and what happened when the Fed did different things. How did the S&P 500 fare? And the data came back and said the market goes up in all 3.
Yeah.
I mean, there are times when it goes down, and it does best when the Fed does nothing. That is the best for the market. And the Fed raising rates is generally considered not good for markets, but we've had strong markets with the Fed raising rates. So we've seen that. The one thing that's very, very clear, people probably forgot about it because we were talking about it 6 months ago, and it still hasn't come up, but I've seen this chart from different people, is what happens when the Fed cuts rates. And if you look at it, it's kind of noisy, but if you take it and break it down into 2 categories, we have a recession or we don't have a recession. If the Fed cuts rates and we are not having a recession, meaning it's determined in the future, right? So we don't know yet. If the Fed is cutting rates because we're in a recession, the market will tend to go down. So that's that could be what we're seeing here is we have a recession coming, which we had all been expecting for years now, and the recession that never came. So maybe, inverted yield curve and all this other stuff that all usually the LEI, the conference board's leading indicators index, all things that historically have been solid indicators of recessions. And last year, all economists and everybody calling for recessions, like I think it was 70, 85% of people or something like that, some high percentage calling for recession. And now it's the other way. So it's like, there's like 15% of analysts calling for a recession this year, but So maybe there's a recession coming, and this is the sort of reaction, or maybe it's something else. I mean, the question I ask you about is there a narrative shift, the subtle change in the Fed speak? And I don't think that that's enough to make a big difference because the CME FedWatch tool hasn't changed all that much. If we look at the CME FedWatch tool, there's been slight changes. The probability now is we're not going to see a rate hike until they're saying until September. Of course, this is always 3 or 4 meetings out when we're going to see a cut. So I'm in the camp that we don't have a cut this year. That's what I feel very comfortable with that, barring any sort of other. We've talked about the reasons for that, but I'm searching for what the narrative shift has been that has caused this move down in the market. And we touched on, you mentioned the bubble on AI, and we've had a couple of earnings reports this week. So Supermicro and Taiwan Semi earlier,
Yeah.
both having some, hey, forecast numbers are good, forecast not so good. Nvidia hasn't reported yet, and they are getting pulled down. I think it's, sentiment. And there's people who are looking and saying, man, we've had a really good run. This thing is up, shoot, literally 275. It's up, you're up 300%, 250%. Let's take some profits maybe. I think that's what's going on with Nvidia and the whole SOX. This is the Philadelphia Semiconductor ETF. It's got a whole bunch of different semis in there. The whole semi sector is 4% for an ETF. That's a big move for an ETF.
Yeah. No, I've been scratching my head for the same thing, trying to find the same story. The one piece of market data out there that makes me believe that there is a narrative shift somewhere out there, and maybe it's just not publicly known yet, is the staggering move that we have seen in gold in the last month. Gold has absolutely skyrocketed to the upside. And normally this only happens, I guess, really since March. I mean, we traded sideways for basically a year. We had a little dip in October last year, as you can see that, but we were basically trading between about $1,900 and $2,000 an ounce, and had been there for about a year. And then the first week of March, we've taken off, and we're up, 20%.
Oh, I know what this is.
What is it?
Costco.
This is Costco?
Do you have any idea how much gold Costco sells in a month? Take a guess.
No, I don't
guess
know.
Guess how much you can go into Costco now. You can buy an ingot of gold. And I saw this online, thought it was a joke. It's not a joke. So I call my local Costco, like, you guys selling gold? They're like, oh yeah, we don't have any right now. Every time I go in, they're gone. They said as soon as we get them, they're gone. People find out, boom, they're gone. Guess how much revenue they're generating. I'm joking that it's Costco, but this is going to blow your mind. Take a guess at a number. How much money do you think they sell in a month of gold?
20 million?
200 million.
200 million.
$200 million. Costco is selling every month in gold.
That's insane.
Yeah. You know what that means going to do for their revenue? Nobody's thinking about this. This actually, I just came up with our new stock to watch. I just popped in.
What's their margins on that?
Holy crap. What's that?
What are their margins on it? That's
They don't make any margins on products. They make their margins on membership, but their revenues are going to be through the roof.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're doing 200 million, that's a 1.2 billion a year. And revenue alone, that's a 1.2 billion. That's going to move the needle, Greg.
I didn't even know that. I went and spent $1,000 at Costco yesterday.
Oh my gosh!
I didn't even know they sold.
What did you get? Did you get the Kirkland something or other?
I went in to buy the good Kirkland granola. Have you had like their Ancient Grains granola?
No.
You've been doing like no granola.
I'm trying to cut out the grains.
Yeah.
They do have a keto cereal that I love. That's the keto Catalina Crunch.
The Catalina Crunch, yeah. It's right next to Catalina Crunch. We were going in for that.
It's like Cinnamon Toast Crunch, but it's very low in carbs.
That's what I went in for. And walked out $941 later.
You bought some steaks, obviously.
They had some steaks, they had some plants. It was, it's springtime, and so we bought plants, and
Okay.
that's what my wife does. We
That's
buy
a pretty big
flowers.
Costco bill.
Yeah. Anyway, I didn't
That's,
buy any gold though.
but seriously,
So
I'm
okay,
going to
so
put
it's more
Costco.
Costco.
Costco's going to be on my watch list because of this.
But
We're going to
so
do some more due diligence on
what are
Costco.
your thoughts on the gold move? Because I mean,
yes.
this
Joking aside, sincerely, what's happening in gold is noteworthy. These are all-time highs, folks. So we're looking at all-time highs in prices, and I think you were going to indicate we've got a change in trend. Normally, bonds trend with gold, and when you've got a disparity, we've had a huge disparity over the past few months of bonds going down, gold going up. This is usually an indication of a lot of fear in something.
Yeah.
Fear in something. So, I mean, a hypothesis is that somebody knows something. This is the Kobesi letter or Kobesi letter, Khaleesi letter. You know what I'm talking about, right? Do you follow them on Twitter?
Khaleesi was
Yeah, I was joking. Khaleesi.
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. Yes, my queen. The
Kobesi letter. Yes, I do follow them on Twitter.
Kobesi letter. I don't want to see Tara.
I was gonna say Tara wants more weed.
This is actually a friend of mine who went through a change. She's had the surgery.
Okay.
So yeah, God bless her. But anyways, um, yeah, the Kobesi letter a while back talking, and he's a little bit like, zero hedge. That's like, look at this bad stuff. But last week he had a chart in here about gold and bonds, and a pretty long thread discussion. The conclusion is it could be war, that maybe there's war, which we have plenty of reasons to believe in escalation. And then, of course, after me saying that after the summit, like literally hours after that, Iran launches drones into Israel. So, I mean, I don't know if there's concern about that escalating, but yeah. Anyways, am I still sharing my screen? Yeah, there you go. Stop sharing.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, gold being really high. I don't know. I wonder who buys physical gold. Is 200 million enough to move the needle? Maybe it's Costco, or maybe we're concerned about a global outbreak. I am less concerned about Iran and what's happening in the Middle East. And quite frankly, Russia is not a concern. I mean, if you watch Fox News, then yes, you think it's a concern, or maybe CNBC. It's something to talk about. But Russia, the strategy of the State Department is to contain Russia economically, and that has been an utter success. And we have been able to do that. And we just have new tariffs coming out now, new tariffs on them, new tariffs coming on China. Unfortunately, the State Department's perception on China is that they've failed because they actually encouraged China's growth and stimulated strategically, intentionally brought China onto the world stage as a global economic power to be an alternative to Russia. And so the State Department believes that they've created them. And now China, being smart, has positioned itself where we can no longer fight them on an economic front. And that's what the concern is. So as far as Russia, I'm not concerned about. Middle East. I mean, there are bad things and people are going to die. And it is terrible. I don't support any of those actions there. But the big concern for me is China still. So
I don't disagree. I mean, there was an analyst on Bloomberg, I think it was Bloomberg I was listening to earlier today, that was talking about Apple and Apple's disappointments right now. And a lot of it is centered around not just their missing of sales in China, which is due to, I'm sure, some of the public view of Apple. You all right?
I haven't been looking at Apple. I just looked at Apple.
Oh,
no wonder my puts are worth so much money.
Yeah, Apple's struggling right now. Apple's down, and again, it's not just that they're losing sales in China, but they're also going through the process of moving a lot of their supply chain out of China, which is going to take years for Apple to do that, an enormous amount of expense. And along with that, it's going to come probably a lack in growth in the second largest economy in the world. So I think, and this is not just exclusive to Apple, folks, by the way. I think there's a lot of companies that if they get a lot of their growth and sales from China right now, the next decade for them, to me, looks really murky, because exactly what you were pointing to and alluding to is that the relationship between China and the United States is not good right now. The trade policies are really poor. And I think either one of these presidents that are going for a re-election, for either re-election in the case of President Trump, former President Trump, or re-election in the case of President Biden, our current president, both of those have really had a kind of an anti-China stance.
I just bought 100 shares of Apple, by the way.
You just bought more shares? Okay.
This is, I mean, we're really this is a 52-week bottom. So I'm gonna, and it looks like, I think we got support there. So
yeah, this is probably a good idea. 160 and change is a fair price for those guys, but that's
165.10. I'm filled.
It's one of those companies that I think is exposed to exactly what you were saying, is the really poor relations with China, and they've got a long road in front of them as far as shifting things. Now, will they get it done eventually? Yeah. And so buying them on weakness is probably a good idea. Buying them at all-time highs is probably not a good idea.
Listen, Kathy brought Dr. Corby, one of our clients, who's a former emergency room nurse, a doctor. She's freaking amazing. By the way, did you notice how she looks?
Oh yeah, she looks great.
She didn't even look. I did not even recognize her. She's on one of these GLP-1 inhibitors, and she feels fantastic. And she looks. I'm like, if I was like, well, this must be your younger, beautiful or sister. She's. I honestly, I swear to God, she said hi to me, and I didn't know who she was talking. I was like, and then I was like, oh my! I heard her voice. I'm like, Kathy. Anyway, she's got the Apple Vision Pro. Have you tried them on yet?
I haven't yet. I didn't get to. I didn't.
Listen, I poo-pooed those things. Been like, yeah. I mean, I've got an Oculus. It's bad. It is complete. It is a completely different thing.
I did reread Ready Player One and Ready Player Two recently, though. So, yeah. Have you ever read Ready Player Two?
I didn't like it quite as much.
Yeah, I didn't like it quite as much either.
Is there way too much Prince in that one? That one's got a lot.
Yeah, that's the one that had a lot of Prince.
I mean, I like Prince, but I can only take so much Prince. And it felt like it was all about Prince. A lot of Prince. If you're a Prince fan, you'd love the book. I love the 80s references, but it was.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of have to be our age to really appreciate that book.
So the concept is people live in a virtual world, but when I put that headphone on, from the first second I put it on, I don't know what kind of magic they're using, but it is soothing from the second you put it on. Like, you put it on, and here's an example. Like, you took a tranquilizer, like you took a Valium or something, because you put it on, you're like, just putting it on your head. It's Apple magic, just, I don't know if they've got some special sensors they're sending into your brainwave, or it's the music, it's a combination of the comfort, but the quality of the image. I mean, I'm holding my finger up and there's a butterfly on my finger, and I'm moving my hand around, and the butterfly is staying on there. I flick my hand and it flies away. And then there's dinosaurs that interact with me. And this is just some of the guest stuff, but talking to Kathy, she wakes up out of bed, boom, puts it on, and she reads all of her mail. And here's the thing is, to click, you use your eyes, you look at what you want, and then your fingers over here, you just go like this. You don't have to pinch, you don't have to reach or touch something. The camera sees, your hand's down here sitting on your lap, and you're looking at something, and you just click. Oh yeah, click, 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 click. It took me 30 seconds to be a power user on that thing. They run you through a click here, look here, click here, look here, click here. I was like, done. Do it again, done. And it's like, open this, open that, open this, boom, boom, boom. I'm like, it's all natural. I know you said you want to get one. You will absolutely love it. And I mean, watching movies or other interacting. I'm still having a hard time finding the use case for it, but I'm definitely gone from like, I don't need that to kind of like, I would like to have one.
You know, at the rate that we were winning money the other night, if we would have stayed for like another hour at the craps table,
Yeah.
we would have made enough money for a Vision Pro.
We would, what?
We would have made enough money for
I
a
made
Vision
half
Pro.
of my, half that. I made half of Vision Pro.
I know, but that's what I was saying. At the rate we were, if we would have stayed another hour,
Oh, another hour. Yeah. One more
yeah,
hour. Yeah. We would have gotten it.
we,
Actually, I do have half of Vision Pro right here.
there you go. There's half a Vision Pro.
Well, I can tell my wife I won it. I won half a Vision Pro. Hmm.
No, it's I still have a hard time spending $3,500 on it. Yeah, if they come down, even maybe even
They're not
below,
going to come down for a long time. No.
I
If they
know.
come down, it's a problem.
Uh,
Then if the price of Apple Vision Pro comes down, you need to be selling them, selling Apple, because that means they got inventory and they can't sell them. Speaking of inventory, you can't sell them. There's huge Cybertruck demand. Have you seen the latest on the Cybertruck recall? Have you seen what happened to the Cybertruck?
no, I have not.
So this guy posted a video. He's a longtime Tesla owner and user. He posted a video of I was just video scrolling by. Looks like the accelerator plate. The accelerator came off.
Oh,
It's just clipped on, and if you hit it hard, it comes off. So there's a like a paddle, and then there's the plate you put your foot on. The
yeah.
plate came off and then slid forward, and then where the firewall or the front wall comes down and where the floor meets, there's a gap. It
And it
went
got
in there
stuck.
and it wedged in there down with the Cybertruck on max throttle.
Ooh.
You know how fast that thing goes?
That's really
It's
fast.
0 to 60 in like 2 seconds, like literally 2 seconds. So can you imagine? Fortunately, if you put your foot on the brakes, it cancels the accelerator. And so what happened was he brought it to a stop and was able to put it in park. But he's showing this. So there's been a recall on like 3,500 of them, and the fix is there's a temporary fix. And what's happened is they drill a hole and then they put a rivet gun and pop a rivet in it.
Does MacGyver come and do it for you?
Well, they will actually come to your house and do it. That's the nice thing about a Tesla is if you have an issue, and they can do it. They'll come to your house and do it. I got an upgrade on my computer. I had the 2.0 computer got upgraded.
Sorry, I'm still in 80s references, so I had to, see if MacGyver would come and do it.
MacGyver. I love MacGyver. How could you
I
not
did
love
too.
MacGyver?
Duct tape and a rivet gun.
Yeah.
all
And
you
some
need.
bubble gum, and then you've got an explosive, right?
Yeah.
Ah, neat.
Yeah, Tesla is also another stock that's 52-week low. Tesla and Apple have really struggled this year, unlike the AI bubble stocks that are struggling today. But yeah, we'll see where this goes. I'm sitting in a lot of cash right now myself. I told you that before we started. I actually only have one position on right now.
Cash is a position.
Cash
Speaking
is a
of cash,
position.
let me share where I don't keep cash anymore. Let me show you what I use. We talked about this box.
No.
This is where I keep my cash. And I showed this to Charlie, and he's like, "What is this? A Ponzi scheme?" Look at this stock chart. Isn't that insane?
There you go.
Does that even look like a stock chart?
No,
So
looks
this
like
is Alpha Architect, and they've got an option-based strategy which effectively locks in the risk-free interest rate. So this makes 5%. You do a long spread and a synthetic short spread, and you put them together, and the math works out. It's the risk-free interest rate that you make. Yeah. So I use this, which has been growing at like I said, 5% for a year. This is my cash sweep. So I put my excess cash in this. It's done pretty well. I mean, I'm made some money. It's better than having money hanging out in cash or something else. I'm
right.
not providing investment advice, but it's something to look into if you've got that cash. Now, you do have to be careful because I actually talked to my broker and said, "Hey, can I give you instruction that if I get assigned early, you'll liquidate box rather than doing something else, because usually I, have the cash available in case I get assigned. But now I'm putting all the cash in this. So if I do get assigned early, I've got to quickly liquidate some of this to be able to make the money. Because they said they wouldn't. The only thing they'll do is if you had for example, a pull put spread, so you had a long put, they would close the long put and close the stock if you get assigned on the short put, and you didn't have the margin to cover it. The Tradier gives me basically an hour when the market opens. I've got an hour to do that on my own, but after that, they said by 10:30 we're gonna be making decisions for you. But anyway, so that's the cash sweep on the VIX. That was just we've got the VIX going really really high. The VIX is actually higher than the futures, which is a good thing to me. Means the VIX was up in the 20s today, which is crazy. And the VIX futures here are elevated to not crazy high. I'm going back full circle to that question of what is the narrative shift that gives us an indication that the market is now trending bearish. There's no question we've got a bearish signals. The trend is now bearish. What is the narrative that's causing that? And I have a hypothesis and a potential explanation, which I shared to you before, but I don't know what the reason for this would be. I expected some pullback around April, the beginning of April, because people are going to be liquidating positions to pay taxes, especially after people have had such good positions. People mark to market have huge profits in their potential or in their accounts. So some people are going to be selling option or selling stocks just to be able to pay a tax bill. And maybe some of that's gone through. Overall, though, I mean, the market is still there's still some strength throughout. As you mentioned, we looked at there's a lot of red in here. This is the S&P 500 day today, this heat map. So some big numbers that are obviously doing terribly, but there are some green and there's some things that are doing okay. Financials, energy stocks, utilities, healthcare. You mentioned there's some growth there. But I have another explanation for this. And this is going back to the Stock Traders Almanac, looking at the performance. I'm a firm believer that the election, Stock Traders Almanac, I highly recommend it. I don't get any credit. Elections impact markets. That's not a question. That's a statement. And we're in an election year, and typically the third and fourth years are good years. The fourth year sometimes is mixed, usually better the second half of the year, as you can see here. And what happens in the middle of April, this is historically in election years going back, and we're talking about 120 years of data. What happens in April when we have a presidential election year? It's not uncommon to see the market grind down, and kind of looks like what we've got going on right now. And if you believe in this narrative, maybe staying hedged until the middle of May for the next month, next 5 weeks, might not be a bad idea.
In fact, arguably staying hedged through July may not be a bad idea. I mean, sometimes summer months have a tendency to be kind of slow anyway.
Well,
And I
the
think
the all years is the seasonal pattern. So typically May's a bad month, June's a bad month.
yeah, and then
September is
July
usually
starts
the
to,
worst month. September is the worst month, but
but
from
July
a
and
seasonal
August are
standpoint,
usually really bullish months. So
yeah,
that's why
yeah.
I think maybe
Through
sitting
July,
up.
I think that's very prudent for people to take this into consideration, and um, maybe to look at taking a little risk off the table by using collar trades or buying puts or doing cover calls or whatever. I'm not providing trading advice, but um, I was expecting and I was actually bracing for a pullback that I expected to happen in March, but we haven't actually. This is sort of what I was expecting to happen already, and then we had this run up. This But looking where we're at now, I think we need to, take this into consideration. I'm not exactly sure what the narrative is. Is there some psychology about the way election years play out and how people behave and what the likely outcomes of elections? And is this driven by elections? Is this just random? I
It's
don't,
hard to say it's random when it's 120 years of data.
yeah. Well, since 120 years ago, it's every 4 years. So
I
technically,
guess that's true.
yeah. So it's 30 years, 30 individual years, but that's a lot of years. 30 years of, because I guess it's actually less than that. We take in the fact that there's been deaths and assassinations and whatever that's happened with presidents or going to jail. Yes. Let's not talk anymore about elections today.
Yeah, we need to let you go. You got a OA Weekly coming up today.
Yeah. I think I'm
So,
good. We're doing okay. Yeah. Oh,
all
I
right.
do take you on. All right. So, yeah, there's a takeaway. So some stock ideas. We threw out some ideas in there. I'm willing to go long Apple here. I think I'm going to put Costco on the list. Um, Interesting to look at what's going to happen here. I think hedging for the rest of the year might not be a bad idea. Any other closing thoughts?
I like the Microns back down at 106. I think when I see it back in double digits, I might consider Micron. I still like oil. I mean, that was one of my stocks again at Summit was Oxy. I think Occidental's still hanging in there. I don't think oil's going anywhere but up right now.
I shared a piece earlier today. So there's that stock that rhymes with Rollman Racks, that company that rhymes with them, that put out a specific hedging strategy for oil. So take a look at that report. They're
Well,
recommending buying puts on oil as a hedge. I mean, they're not.
yeah.
This is it's one of the bigger risks they've seen, and I think their sentiment is not as bullish as they were. They had been bullish, but now they're not as bullish. I think. Take a look at the report, anyways.
Okay. All right, my friend. Good
Yes,
to talk
sir.
to you again.
All right. We'll catch y'all later. Thanks, everybody.
See ya.